Good morning, grade 12. Welcome to your LO lesson for today. My name is Puleng Liziga and I am your LO teacher for the duration of the lockdown. Now, on my screen right now, on this particular slide, is my email address, lizigapuleng@yahoo.com. It is Liziga, my surname Puleng, my name, in small letters @yahoo.com. And you're welcome to email me if you have any question that has to do with LO, if you need any clarity, or if you want to ask me anything. Basically, you can communicate with me on my email and I will respond. So today we are going to be doing chapter 3, unit 3, which is ideologies, beliefs, and worldviews on creation and physical activity across cultures and genders. So these are the things, these are the ideologies and the beliefs that we have as individuals, and also the worldviews that we have with regards to physical activities, which is sports and athletics. And we're also going to look at the different views on sports, on creation, which means art, the arty stuff, and the physical activity, the sports, and the everything that's physical. And we're going to look at it with a view from a gender perspective too, meaning how males and females are treated differently, similarly, or in a different way with that regard. And then the lesson objectives for today are that you must know the ideologies, beliefs, and worldviews on recreation and physical activity. So we're going to look at the culture, the Eastern culture and the Western culture as an example. And then we're going to bring it right home here to South Africa so that we can just understand it in our local context. So the keywords for today, we're going to go through them. The keywords for today are, all right, let me see the chat box. And then I just lost it. Let me see. Okay. So please feel free to participate in the lesson. Make sure you use the chat box. You can ask questions. You can comment on anything that I speak on, and you can just take part in the lesson. And I will keep on checking my chat box. I'll tell you when I check it, and we will try and address, and we will all participate in answering the questions. So the keywords for today is ideology, worldviews, and culture. So we're going to start with ideologies. Ideologies are principles, they're philosophies, dogmas, or ideas. So obviously ideology coming from the word ideas. So ideology is a set of beliefs and values attributed to a person or group of persons, especially as held for reasons that are not purely epistemic. The word ideology used to be used only for economics, so meaning when you describe things such as a closed economy or an open economy, closed economy being a country that only does trade within the country, open economy, a country that does trade with other countries, that is open to do trade with other countries. So those would be two ideologies used in the economic sense. I mean, political can also, it was also used for politics. So maybe we would look at things like capitalism and socialism. So capitalism would be about the free market, to about the state not intervening in the 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 running of businesses, meaning businesses are the ones that run the economy. And then basically that franchise people are allowed to buy land and own property and maybe privatization. And then whereas with communism, then the state is in control of almost every asset, is in control of the economy, controls the economy, and maybe people aren't allowed to have franchise or aren't allowed to buy their own properties. The land will be owned by the state and everything is shared. So those are two ideologies from politics, and then religious theories, so different religions, whether it's Christianity or Islam, Buddhism. So they'll look at the religious theories and just doing the research, the anthropological and historical research within each of the religions, and then policies in general. All of these sectors, all of these areas that I mentioned have policies. But now the term ideology can be used more broadly. It can be used in sports, it can be used in the arts, like we are going to use it today. So, and then basically, the next word is worldview. And worldview is the general standpoint or side from which people see and interpret the world, collections of beliefs about life. So, worldview is made up by a comprehensive framework of ideas. So, this is everyone's ideas collectively. So, it will be every person's ideas and attitudes about the world and ourselves and life. So this basically is combining everybody's views and trying to get like an average view or maybe to see what is the most common belief amongst us. So it's a system of our belief and our personal theories about the world. So these are things that we believe about the world and how it works. So we're trying to, this speaks to how we think the world works, and it also gives its own answers, provides answers for a wide range of questions. So, for example, worldview would be trying to answer questions like what are humans? So maybe there'll be different perspectives of maybe religious. Religious perspective would be that we were created by God. And then maybe the scientific explanation will be more about us coming from maybe the family having like developed, or the evolution theory where we have developed from chimpanzees, and then basically mitochondrial Eve, like the person who's believed to be the mother of all humans, all human species, like Homo sapiens. We're Homo sapiens. And then basically questions like what is our purpose in life? People are obsessed with purpose right now. It's about being successful, reaching your destiny, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, even there are lots of written books like Purpose Driven Life. We are generally always trying to share what we feel um, it takes to be successful. We're always trying to share how to fulfill our purposes as humans, and also how to reach our destinies. So people are obsessed with success right now. People want to make it. There's a notion of making it, and people are also scared of failure. And then there is a worldview on what success is, and mostly the worldview on what success is, in my opinion, is just based on materialism and less on satisfaction. So people will think if you are a billionaire, then you are successful, have reached your purpose, and you have arrived at your destiny. But people will not consider whether you are happy or satisfied with where you are in life or what you have achieved. Because for me, you may have the material things, but you can still feel like you lack other human qualities. So basically, yes, it does explain what humans are, what is our purpose in life, and then what goals do we have. So, for instance, the goals that we have as humans, I'm going to make an example with the World Health Organization. They usually have the World Health Organization has had targets like stopping the spread of malaria, stopping the spread of TB, stopping the spread of Ebola. They'll usually rush to aid the African countries that are suffering from Ebola. And then basically the biggest challenge I think in the 90s was when HIV started surfacing. I know it started surfacing I think around about 70s, but when people started dying a lot and when it started like being shown that it affects a lot of Africans, so basically, what happened was that the World Health Organization started setting out programs and giving the countries that are most affected money to try and stop the infection rate. So it was a worldview, and it is a worldview that we must stop the spread of HIV. And then right now, the worldview, I think, that is common, I think, or everyone's view right now, or a perception that everyone holds right now is that we're trying to stop the spread of COVID-19. We want to see people recovering. We want to see less people being infected. In fact, we want a zero infection rate because we want to go back to normal. We want our economies to go back to normal. And then basically there are other things like environmental goals, like we want to, as human beings, we want to lessen our carbon emissions. So there are forums where we meet as different countries and we try to come to conclusions of how we're going to lessen the carbon emissions and the pollution so that we may be able to save our environment. So basically each country we will check how much carbon emissions each country is emitting, and then they will have to come up with a promise that we're going to cut our carbon emissions by 10% in the next 3 years. So then it is everybody's priority to to have the earth be a healthier place and a better environment for the future. And then also with regards to things like nature conservation, we want to keep our indigenous plants all over the world. Even animals, we don't want animals and plant life to be extinct. So there are things like countries agreeing to stop trade, to work together to stop the trade of like wild animals crossing borders and maybe being transported to other countries, maybe from Africa to other countries for food, or there are countries that eat wildlife or use wildlife for medicinal purposes because that is their culture and tradition. So we have forums and a worldview that we need to save our environment. And then other worldviews are maybe sports, that we all enjoy sports, and then sports is competitive. We're all hooked on maybe there's a sports icon, or maybe there is someone as big as a pop star, and we all think that this person is a star. For instance, everyone thought that Michael Jackson is a star. So everyone will think that this is one of the biggest people that we have had. So those are the goals that we might have, and then how we make decisions about using time. So a worldview, I believe, with regards to time, is that everyone knows and holds the perception that time is money. Nobody wants to waste time. If you've worked in a workplace, you know that time is money. If you lose out on time, you will lose out on time to make your products, and you will have less revenue if you lose out on working hours. So, for instance, we see that with load shedding, with companies like not having electricity, the companies that don't have backup, in the hours that they don't have electricity, let's say the 4 hours or the 5 hours where there's a power cut, then they lose production for those hours, and therefore they lose revenue, and they lose, yeah, they aren't effective and unproductive for those hours. So time as money is a worldview. So we all revolve around time. And then what our values and priorities are. So maybe the worldwide views are priority now for each country to get developed is development and progress. And maybe right now every country wants to move on to the fourth industrial revolution. Everyone wants to digitize. I don't think there's a country that wants to stay in a traditional mode and still be doing things manually. I don't think there's any like country that still wants to use papers instead of laptops, or still want to use green ID books instead of moving to something more digital, unless if maybe there is a problem with capacity or other problems that they meet with. So that would be on worldviews. And then on culture, the beliefs, behaviors, items, and ideas that are common to the members of a particular group or society includes language. So these are the different languages that we speak. People see their identity, link their identity with with their languages, and their culture with their languages. For instance, there are things that people might feel like in my language, this it makes more sense for me when I say it in my language, or in my language it means something different and it is more suitable for my culture. So dress, the way we dress, and then customs, this is what we do. It involves religion and rituals. Values, these are norms and values that we hold. And then, yeah, I've already mentioned tradition and rituals. So culture is a general term that describes what includes social behavior. So a culture, if you're part of a culture, there's a way in which you and your people in your ethnic group behave. So you'll have your norms, and your norms will be found in your human society. In the society that you have, you'll have norms and values, as well as the knowledge. So this is the knowledge that you have, whether you hand it down from one generation to the other, or whether you keep it in books like in the Western world. I know with the Western world they'll write books, and then with African culture they'll pass on the traditions orally. So capabilities, so this is what you're able to do. So in different cultures they'll do different things. So some communities and cultures are more agricultural, some are more industrialized, and some are a combination of the two. And habits of the individual in these groups. Humans acquire culture through learning processes of teaching and passing on culture. So you learn to acquire culture from your parents. So that is primary socialization. That is what your parents teach you, how you grew up. These are things that they like, basically they make sure that you do them. And then how to behave which are shown in our many different cultures. So we see with each and every culture how people behave differently. All right. So ideologies, beliefs, and worldviews on recreation and physical activity, culture in Eastern and Western cultures. So we're going to look at the Eastern culture and we are going to make an example with the martial arts. So in some Eastern countries, forms of material arts, martial arts rather, or self-defense such as judo, karate, and tai chi are practiced by many people because these activities are part of their ideologies, belief systems, and religions. So martial arts for the people in the East is about more than the fighting art or the art of fighting. But for many of these people, for those countries, it is a way of life. So it is for self-defense. It can be for self-defense, but it is also seen as a journey towards having complete harmony of body, mind, and spirit, and it also has a whole lot of holistic benefits. So, martial arts has physical benefits because it's like exercise, because you train every day or you train whenever you have to, so it gets you physically fit. And then mentally, it enhances their cognitive abilities. So it improves things like focus and concentration. And then spiritually, it is meant to develop character. So it teaches also self control. And then they believe it makes them more calmer. So it makes you more calmer and more aware of your surroundings. So you get sharpened in your sense of surroundings. So it also teaches life skills like discipline, determination, and confidence, instilling a strong sense of self-belief while retaining humility. So you are advised to stay humble so you don't get arrogant and have a big head, even though maybe you're a black belt or you are a teacher, you get to the point of being a teacher, so you are so full of humility, and then it also helps them with unifying them and helps them to bond together. So it helps with social cohesion too. So that would be an example of physical activity recreation uh, in the culture of Eastern countries. And then in the Western culture, sports is a way of making money. Lots of money is spent on sporting activities, events, and sponsorships. Sports is a huge industry with many job opportunities. The focus of sports is on developing champions with very special skills. So we know that soccer is big in the Western countries. We have leagues like the Barclays, we have La Liga, we have Bundesliga, which is resuming. The games are starting. I know the teams are already training, so I don't know the exact date of when the Bundesliga is gonna start, but I think it's the first league that is going to start. So this shows even though it's COVID-19 and we still haven't gone past it very much, we still don't have like we aren't yet at a zero infection rate. We haven't yet eradicated it, but you know what? Because there's lots of money to be made in sports, and you know what? We need to keep our sponsors and the games like help us to make money and to pay the players. So you have leagues like the Bundesliga starting because of those reasons of wanting to make revenue. And so research also shows that sports is taken in a different manner in the modern culture than it is in traditional societies. So maybe in traditional societies, it won't be about revenue a lot. It will maybe be about entertainment and just social cohesion and just maybe about passing time. So in the Western world, sports focuses on equality and both in conditions of it also views it also like wants equality in conditions of competition. So it means all teams get a fair opportunity to compete. So sports is also about specialization. So we have people with special skills like they're team doctors, and then the physiotherapists, those are specialists. You're not just gonna take someone random and make them a physiotherapist for a big team like Sundowns. So basically, you also have your strikers are your strikers. They get trained in a certain way. Goalkeepers get goalkeeper training, and they also become specialists. Even your coaches are specialists in bureaucracy and being rational and unique. So being rational is about maybe the way you play the game, your game plan. So there's very rational like game plans. Like we know there's a 4-4-2, a 4-5-1, and those are like game plans where someone can sit down or a coach can sit down and give you a technical breakdown and a rational breakdown of how they are playing their sports. And then uniqueness from one team to another, unique fans. Like we know that some fans known to be more jollier. Like for instance, oh, we know the Bloemfontein Celtics fans. Sorry for taking it home a bit. I know we're busy with Western cultures. Are known to sing maybe throughout the game and stand. I mean, whereas some soccer team fans are more likely to sit down throughout the game and just clap their hands at the end of maybe a goal or a free kick that they think was taken properly. Um, I don't know if you're not familiar with soccer, then because I'm making a lot of soccer examples because I love soccer. So yes, that would be unique. So also like even your soccer teams usually or sports teams even rugby, cricket, they usually represent provinces. So maybe we'll have Manchester United representing Manchester. So the people of Manchester feel an allegiance towards Manchester. And I know some will feel an allegiance for Manchester City. And then, yeah, it will be patriotism for that particular, like, county or province or that wherever the place is. So, yeah, it will be a source of national pride even for different countries. So, sports is a part of modernity, for example, industrialization and urbanization and nationalism. So industrialization, what we saw is in with the World Cups, wherever the World Cup goes, the FIFA World Cup goes, or your rugby World Cups and cricket World Cups, we find that maybe the countries have to prepare for the World Cup and it involves infrastructure. Some have to build roads, some have to build new stadiums, and the stadiums need to be multi-purpose because they need to think about how they're going to keep them functioning after the World Games, because you don't want them to be white elephants. So we saw some of our other stadiums here. They have like bungee jumping things and walking on top of the bridge. I think it's Moses Mabita that has like bungee jumping. And then Nelson Mandela Bay has like that bridge that you walk on top, and then you see the beautiful views in the Western Cape, in the surrounding areas. And then, some stadiums have water facilities and have tracks for running so that they can cater also for athletics. So this is with regards to industrialization. So that brings a lot of urbanization too. I mean, some stadiums are built next to where people are, and some of the ones that are going to be used by teams for training are developed, so local communities also get developed stadiums and areas where they can gym. And I've seen a trend of having outside gyms and stuff like that. So sports does bring urbanization, and now we see every country trying to improve. And then nationalism too. So every country will have um, national team where they compete, whether in the cricket or the rugby test, cricket test, maybe the Olympics. I know we were scheduled to have Olympics this year, so each country was going to send their delegation of athletes to go and represent them. They'll have their colors there and they will represent them. And then sports is used to unify and to solve problems or to address problems like racism and other social ills. So you find that FIFA will have a fair play and they'll also have this, they will also encourage that we eradicate racism. So maybe before the games, the captains will have like mini speech on racism, maybe the big games, and then we see it too with our tournaments. Here, maybe our Confederations Cup here. So basically, we also have penalties in sports for. Uh, we also have penalties. Yes, Gabby has raised their hand. Let's check that out. Gabby, all right. You can speak
Morning.
to me.
Um, uh, when you speak about the sports industry and the racism and stuff, the one problem that they always have is the gender equality situation, where most people would watch the men instead of the women. Most support would go to the men sporting industry instead of the women, and that's like a major problem for me.
Okay, yes, that is true, and we are going to cover it when we get to gender. But then on that, yes, it is a problem with it is just it's unfair really, and I think it's something that has happened over the years as a result of patriarchy, maybe with people feeling that sports is more for men for the longest time. So for the longest time, people have felt that um, sports is more for men, is more manly, and that women are too soft and feminine for sports. So I feel like then male sports developed quicker and more further, and then female sports also like came a bit lagging behind. But it's no excuse right now in 2020, or rather, because there was a lockdown in 2019, for there not to be equal opportunities for women and men in sports. I know with the American national team, the ladies national team, they even went on strike. I think it's early this year. I think maybe it started late last year where they were fighting for equal pay. They won the World Cup and then they still weren't getting equal pay with their male team. They weren't getting paid as much as their male team. So they went on strike and finally they got heard. So it is changing bit by bit and it's taking a fight. It's taking people not keeping quiet and people deciding to be a voice. Like if they didn't use their voice, then we wouldn't have had the problem that if people don't use their voice, rather, what's gonna happen is that the situation is not going to change. So we do need people that keep on raising their voices, women that raise their voices. Even I think it's Serena, Serena Williams, after she had a baby, that the whole cat suit saga, where basically she was sending a message. Basically, it's after when she came back after having a child. So she was telling us more about the challenges of going back into sports after you have a child. So there are different levels of this gender and gender equality, and how it's harder to bounce back and still get the respect that you need to get from your male counterparts. So we are addressing issues of unequal pay, and we are addressing the issues of sponsorships, why sponsorships prefer to sponsor male sports over women's sports. So we are fighting those challenges. I mean, there are women who are out there representing, and then the onus is on us as women to keep on being a voice and to keep on trying to change the narrative. So, all right, Salma, let me read the chat box. Ma'am, it's not about fighting at all. We do martial arts. Oh, sorry. There we go. This is on martial arts. Sorry, I didn't read this. Ma'am, it's not about fighting at all. We do martial arts to balance all our circles of life. People use it for fighting, excluding self-defense, go against our values. That's good. So it means the reading that I have had a bit of a difference um, with the view, but I will, as I think a person who is from the the culture, then I will accept what you're saying. So I understand that it is about it is about like balancing the circles of life. So and then yes, Lesedi, the Bundesliga has already started. So yes, that is it. So Western cultures, I think. Oh yeah, we're still on Western cultures. I don't know how much time we have left. So research, okay, yeah, in a manner. Where were we? Yes, like racism and other social ills. So I think we had finished discussing that. So moving on to the next slide. I don't know how we're doing for time. I don't know how we're doing for time. So South African culture, we're going to look at uh, the South African culture. Okay. In South Africa, under apartheid, certain sports were designated for specific cultural groups. Example, rugby was seen to be a sport for white males. With democracy, there has been an improvement, and now all people are allowed and encouraged to play. I know we have recently, I think it's over the years rather, where people have been encouraged to participate in different sports. Like we know that rugby is not just for white males. We've seen a lot of African people doing well in rugby. For instance, we see Sia Khaleesi, our captain, and all our other players, so Ndongwani and the other players. And then basically, it's with regards to all sports too, where we see a change of the face of the sport, where it's more diverse and we're seeing more diversified teams so playing the sport. And then South Africa is also a sporting nation. As you know, we do love our sports. So South Africa is quite competitive, both nationally, so within our borders, and within our country and internationally. You know that we do well internationally. We do win our rugby cups, and well, We have won some rugby cups and we have won some international series for cricket. And we do qualify, like I know Banyana qualified for the World Cup. And we do have people who also do well in winning gold medals, like Caster Semenya, like Wade van Niekerk, and Akani Simbani, like I forgot his surname, but we do have gold medalists, and we also have a strong culture for running, like with the comrades marathon. So we are quite a sporting nation. So sports unifies us, as we are a very diverse nation coming from different tribes, tribal groups, and ethnic groups. So we use sports to resolve our divisions and to encourage patriotism. So we also use sports to build the idea of our rainbow nation. So, for example, some people started a trend of wearing green and gold every Friday. So, just to show our national pride and our support for South Africa and our national team. So, this builds nationalism and national pride. And then basically, this is sports is used also by the government as as a tool to form social cohesion for us to be a unified country. So I did that would be on South Africa. So ideologies, beliefs, and worldviews on recreation and physical activity. So gender. Participation in sport and many recreational activities is still dominated by men. This is what we're speaking about with Gabby. So this is the slide. Participation in sport and many recreational activities is still dominated by men. Many people believe that men are more competitive, aggressive, and that these qualities are necessary to play sport or be a winner. Men who are interested in a sport or be a winner. Men who are not interested in sports are often ridiculed. Women who are good at sport are often accused of being too manly. Are often accused of being too manly. So sometimes boys or men don't appreciate being like watching sports with other women because they've been raised to say that women don't know anything about sports, and why would you want to watch sports with a woman? So, and a woman wouldn't know what's going on. So we have women analysts and women com- commentators who are treated like they know less. So these are women in sports. They're not necessarily on the field, but they're in the studio commentating and analyzing, and some of them are overlooked, and they get their male colleagues preferred and chosen because people don't believe that they understand the sport as much as their male colleagues understand the sport. So you also find yourself in a male dominated environment when you work in sports. For instance, you might be the only woman working at a soccer team. Maybe you are a physiotherapist, so you're working with a whole lot of male staff and there aren't any women. You might find yourself in studio commentating or being an analyst and being the only woman in the room. I know there are women who have done well and who have broken through, like Lebo Musedi, Carol Manana. So those are women who have done well with regards to being sports presenters, and they've been pillars and they've been like doing this for a long time. And then even with regards to being paid, women who are in sports are paid less, even though they are performing the same job as men. We did address it. I made an example with the American soccer team, and we also know that sponsors also prefer sponsoring male sports. Sometimes they might say it's because male sports has more ratings than women's sports, but we do know that if they did maybe give women's sports more attention or gain a time, then we would be able to rake in more sponsors. Well, this is my opinion. I don't want to be sound like I'm being biased towards the women, but being we just telling the truth about what is going on with women being marginalized in sports. I mean, men who don't like sports also are often asked why they don't like sports and can be kicked out of some social circles if they don't like sports because they are not being seen as a manly man or uh, their masculinity is questioned. So, I mean, this is the last slide. Gender. This is about gender. So, socially formed roles and behaviors. So, genders are socially formed roles. Being male and being female, we are all taught at home. Whether you're a girl, you were made to wear a pretty pink dress, and whether when you're a boy, you were made to wear blue or brown because pretty and pink or purple with pink hair bulbs and nice Disney animations for females. Like I can't name the female ones because I don't want to like get sued. So basically, there will be more like women will be taught to be softer and more feminine, and they'll be taught how to be a woman, how to be nurturing. For instance, you'll play with dollies and push prams, feed the baby. You have cups and teacups and stoves that you play with. Then that those will socialize you into knowing that you must cook, you must take care of the child, whereas boys will have tools so that they know they need to fix stuff. They'll have cars, they'll have building blocks so that they know how to build and stuff. I mean, they'll have games that encourage more critical thinking. So these are how our gender roles are formed and how our behaviors are formed. So these are things that we need to address. I think they are being addressed most recently. So you do know what to do. You need to buy your girl child some tools and some building blocks and a car, and then buy your boy child a dolly and a pram and a cooking set so that they can also know that they also need to do their own cooking and they also need to do their own part in raising their own kids. So roles that society gives to women and men. So basically those are the roles that are given to men and those roles do spill out to everything else, to our workplaces and to sports and to basically everywhere. So yeah, our activity for today just to test yourself in your opinion, to formulate your opinion. What influence does sport have in South Africa as we have been described as a nation that loves sport? So that will just be for you. And then that would be it. So please join me tomorrow for class at 10 o'clock, and tomorrow will be Tuesday. And you can join us for more information on the website Africa Teen Geeks and also sign up for the newsletter so that you can get your links and all your information. Also join, you can search for African Teen Geeks on all social media platforms and that is where you can get to see what we're doing, what we're about. And welcome to you. Also, welcome to email me at litikapuling@yahoo.com. Thanks for participating, and thanks for participating in the chat box. And thank you, Gabby, for sharing your opinion. So, thank you very much for being part of the lesson. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow.